लगता सचमुच कि आज झोपड़ी का भाग खुल गए. शबरी के पास भगवान चल के पहुंच गए. But here, हम सब लोगों को अपने अपने घर से, अपने अपने देश से, सिटी से खींच के लाए. So it feels like we're even more blessed. Pujya Swamiji was speaking briefly, looking out over the 60 years of his sannyasi life, that having left home at 8 and now turning 68. And he was speaking about amazingly how blessed he'd been to be in so many places and do so much. And he said, so many people in life get really caught up in nonsense, in tiny, tiny visions and tiny, tiny thoughts, tiny, tiny ideas. The nonsense of, who's saying what, to whom, about whom, who's criticizing this one or putting this down, or who's saying this is impossible, or this shouldn't be done, or this can't be done. He was speaking about when he built the ashrams in Mansarovar in China, and people were like, no way, can't be done. How when he had built the Hindu Jain temple, and people were like, no, shouldn't be done. They shouldn't worship together. And just so many different times in his life when there's two ways to go. One way is to get lost in, oh my God, this one's saying that, this one's saying this one's negative over here, this one's gossiping here, this one's criticizing here. And he said, really what I've seen is all that matters is between you and God. God knows. God knows what you're doing. God sees your heart. God sees your intention. And that clarity, that integrity, that transparency, that divinity has to be between you and God. He said people will always be negative. People with small minds, small thoughts, small visions. Well, they'll always, of course, naturally say small things. It's the nature of life. He said, but what matters is how you are clear, how you are transparent, how you are pure, how you are living with that divinity and integrity, how you know that you are being a tool in the hands of God. And he said, that's what's most important. He said, so many people's lives get ruined and lost, whether in worrying about what other people are saying or being the ones to do the saying about other people. Either way, our lives get ruined. This is where he said, just be that absolute pure, absolute surrendered, with yoga, with integrity, with dharma, tool in God's hands. And that's what matters, is that relationship with God. He spoke about how on his, we don't say deathbed for a saint, rather we say before he took Mahasamadhi, the great union with God, how his guru, Pujya Swami Dharmananji Maharaj, before he took Mahasamadhi, how he had taken Pujya Swamiji's vachan, his promise, that he would take care of Parmarth. And in those days, Pujya Swamiji was doing so much work all over the world with the Encyclopedia of Hinduism and the Hindu Jain temple and so many temples all over the world. And how before taking Mahasamadhi, his guru said to him, Just make sure. Take care of Parmarth. And how that for him has become this incredible seva and blessing. And he said, but it's not about, he said, sometimes people think it's about the four walls, that it's about an institution, about a structure. And he said, it's not about that. He said, again, so many people get lost in the walls themselves, in which part of the wall belongs to whom, in the ego about the walls as dividers, in the walls as possession, in the walls as divisions. He said the point of the walls is just there should be a structure that invites people, that houses people, that allows people to come and to stay and to be touched and inspired. He said the walls are just themselves a tool, not something that we should get stuck or lost in. He said the institution of Parmarth is not about the walls. It's about the heart of every single person who's ever come and whoever will come, whose lives have been touched and transformed, who has come and then has left from here as a better person, a person of light, a person of truth, a person of connection to God, and that whatever it is we're doing here, all of the seva, from morning prayers to yoga, to arti, to satsang, to the actual sevas, the logistic sevas, all of it is there to touch people, to heal people, to help people, to get people closer to God. And so he said, and if all of us who are living here get stuck in the walls themselves, we miss the whole point. He said, so whether it's the walls of a building or the walls in our hearts or the walls between us or the walls that we're erecting, he said, then you've lost the whole point. Parmarth is literally, it means dedicated to the welfare of all. There's swarth, which means selfishness, and Parmarth, which means for all. And that's what the point of the ashram is. And so he was very eloquently emphatic about let us not get lost in thinking that Parmarth is about walls and about that kind of structure. It's about giving us an inner structure within ourselves. And all of us who are here, whether we are here permanently, whether we are guests here for a brief period of time, either way, that's for all of us to experience that, become that, and share that. And lastly, I mean, he said so much, but just the last point that I'll mention is he was speaking about the grace of God and how God takes care of everything, and how so many people worry so much about, like, what for me? What about me? What will I have? And how in the entire world, after everything he's created and established and done, that there isn't one bank account in his name, not one rupee in his name, not 1 inch of land in his name. That if he left Parmarth, literally, there isn't a wallet, a bank account, a piece of land, a building, nothing in his name. And he said, that's the grace of God, of knowing that when you really surrender to God, it's knowing that God is taking care of you, that it's not about what for me, what's mine, where am I in all this? How much of it can I hold and grab and stick in my pockets or make my own? But rather it's about surrendering to God and knowing. And he said also, by the way, he said also, it's amazing. He said, everybody always asks, what gift can I give you? He said, all over the world, everybody says, what can I give you? And he said, and I've never wanted anything. Just that people themselves should use their lives as a gift. And take just one more minute actually to share a personal story on that very last part about not wanting anything, because when you tell that to people, most people think, well, that can't really be true. I mean, he has to want something. There must be something he wants. And one of my very first experiences that came to me as I was translating that part of what he had said was in 1998. I had gone back to America for a couple of weeks to have my appendix removed. Separate, longer story, but point was I was back in America and flew back to India. I was flying back just before we were going on a yatra to Kailash Mansarovar. And it was a yatra that Pujya Swami Guru Sharananji Maharaj was running, and I didn't know anything. I had never heard of the place. I didn't speak Hindi at that time. But prior to having my appendix removed, I had been in meetings in Haridwar with Pujya Swamiji, Pujya Swami Guru Sharananji Maharaj, and all of the saints who were going on the yatra. And they had been looking at maps, and Pujya Swami Guru Sharananji Maharaj had said to me specifically, he had said, make sure that our Pujya Muniji has warm clothes. He said, because it is going to be very cold there. Okay. So, Ji Maharaj, you do. And because Guru Sharananji Maharaj is like I always say he's like the Divine Mother. He just is that. So, that was in March or April. I was back in America. I got my appendix out. I was getting ready to fly back to India. And I remembered, we're going to Kailash Mansarovar. I have to get him warm clothes because in India, I've never gone shopping. I wouldn't even have any idea where to get anything. So I thought, well, here I am back in LA. I can get him some good thermals. And so I bought him really good, warm thermals, a bottoms and a top. Okay, one pair, top, bottom. I then proceeded to dye them orange because they don't come in orange. They come in white or blue or black, but I got the white ones. And I proceeded to dye them orange in my mother's washing machine and brought them back to India. And I gave them to him, and he said, I don't need them, take them back. And I said, well, I can't take them back because I've dyed them. They won't take them back. He said, no, you have to return them. I don't need them. I said, Swamiji, I promise. There's no way they're going to accept the thermals back now that I've dyed them. So he accepted them. That was 1998, June. Fast forward 3 years, we are going to Allahabad Kumbh Mela. Now, anybody who went on Kailash Mansarovar Yatra with us knows what it was like in terms of there's no laundry, you don't wash things, you're sleeping in the dirt. I mean, now, by His grace and then by the Chinese government, now there's hotels and places to stay. At that time, you were sleeping in the dirt. Okay. Fast forward 3 years, we're going to Kumbh in Allahabad. I've never been, but everybody says it's really cold. Really cold, take lots of warm clothes. Again, coincidentally, I was back in America in December of 2000, and I thought, I'm going to get him another pair of thermals. He has one. They were probably ruined in Kailash Mansarovar. Mine were ruined. I bring him another pair. He says, I don't need these. Take these back. I have the pair. But of course, I had dyed them again. He said, I don't want them. He said, we'll give them to somebody else. So many saints are coming with us. We'll give them to somebody else. I said, but Swamiji, you only have one pair. He said, one pair is all I need. And I begged him. I said, they've told me that, it takes forever for clothes to dry, that, it could be days. But he says, no, I'll be fine. I lived in Pittsburgh for years. I've never had thermals in the snow. I don't wear these things. But I begged him. He kept them. But he kept them on one condition. The condition was, he said, you will promise me that you will never buy me anything again until and unless I specifically say to you, I need this. And he took my promise, and here we are in 2020, 19 years later, and if he stood up and went inside, I am sure he could, within 30 seconds, still pull out the 2 pairs of thermals that he had from 1998 and 2001 that, against his will, he accepted. And I share this story because it's such an extraordinary lesson. I mean, A, it's just a beautiful story about who he is, but B, it's such an extraordinary lesson about what we really think we need, what we think is necessary in life, how most of us judge by newer, better, more, that sense of yearning, that sense of wanting. And so when he says, when he teaches, when he lectures, when he gives us that message, that spiritual sandesh of don't ask what for me, ask what through me, and realize that God is taking care of you. That really is how he lives. It's not just something to say, but it actually is what I've been so incredibly blessed to see.